Hi everyone, I'm Katerina. So I've been tasked with preparing a presentation for you guys, a presentation that introduces who I am. But funnily enough, both presentations and introductions have a lot to do with what I think about in my art practice, so let's start there. Now I'm guessing that when you've been tasked in the past with preparing a presentation, maybe back when you were at school, that you may have come across a common piece of advice, and that is that you should never ever write out your whole presentation and then stand there and read it in front of an audience, which is kind of what I'm doing right now. You may have already noticed the script I've prepared here, and how all I'm having to do now is scroll and read off my script. And I've always been interested in this advice. Why shouldn't you read out your presentation from a script? Well, it may come across boring, robotic, monotonous, and maybe it won't sound genuine, because the way in which my script predetermines what I'm going to say here seems to remove my free will in a way. I don't seem like a person in her natural habitat, that is, the chaos of the everyday, where you can't come prepared. I read out the words like an actor playing the part of a character in a play, not a person, but a persona. And so now let's try an experiment. I'm going to go off script. So I'm not reading anything at the moment. I'm just having to speak freely and be spontaneous, improvise. And I have to work out every next word that I'm going to say. I don't know what I'm going to say next. So being as I am now, let's compare this Katerina with the one previously who was reading off the script. So we're maybe a bit different, but in some senses also we could ask, am I any less scripted now than a few moments ago when I was reading off this text? Now, in a sense, I'm not being dictated word for word what I should say next. But in fact, there are still many things that are dictating the way I behave and what I'm saying to you right now. So for one thing, I have a whole history that's behind me, which has taught me how to move, how to express myself, which limits the kinds of ways which I can behave in these sorts of situations, right? In this context of the university and introductions and formalities and things like that. But there's also the English language, right? Grammar and syntax of English, which is controlling every next word I can say. I can't just say random things if I'm going to be understood by you. In fact, there's very precise probabilities related to the words I need to say next, given the words I've said previously. So the English language is also dictating me. I'm not just using it, it's using me. So there's all these things that are actually scripting me that are not necessarily in the form of this visibly written text. They're kind of invisible scripts. So now I will go back to reading faithfully off the script. So regardless of whether my actions are guided by the script I'm reading right now, or whether they are guided by a more invisible script forged by the blind forces of biological and cultural evolution, anything spontaneous and characteristic you might pick up from my personality, my character, right now as I introduce myself to you, depends on a long lineage of people past and present that I copy from every day, all the time. And when I ask artists about how they started being artists, it often starts with a story about copying. They were maybe copying something as in life drawing, or maybe they were tracing over an admired artist's work. Originality often starts with copying because being an individual starts with the communal. So, one of the many ways of describing what an artist is someone who deals in character. Not just people-like characters, but also thing-like characters. A bush has character. A Pokemon has character. A voice has character. Characters are meaningful cultural patterns, and as artists we become very attuned to them, tracing them, copying them, repurposing them, deploying them to our various private investigations. In my practice, I write novels, I pretend to be different people, I draw Pokemon, I sing in the shower, and I dance to hip-hop music videos. In other words, I expose myself as much as possible to character. I grow pleasantly jealous of these characters. I inhabit them, willingly or unwillingly. I allow myself to become infected, under the influence of character, a vehicle for character to manifest and disappear. I get to know characters. I form relationships with them, which also means forming relationships with myself. Self, soul, spirit, person, identity, persona, agent, quality, subject, being, character. These are all the kinds of things that I like to reckon with, and that reckon with me. This cloud of seemingly related concepts that somehow delineate what I am. And so when I have to introduce myself, I look inward, I soul search, and out of me I pull a character, a collection of qualities I can comfortably perform and which I hold dear enough to call my own. After this session, I might leave the room, go outside, and be a somewhat different character. Like mood, character ebbs and flows. It's a changing pattern that permutes across the surface that is me. Copying, pretending, role-playing, imitating, gesturing, insinuating, delineating. These are all things that any artist can do with a brush, with a camera, with a pencil, with their bodies, with whatever actions are dear to them. And it allows them a way into the characters, the meaningful patterns that flow like currency in our shared world. In a way, it allows them to touch and prod empirically at the world in special, intimate ways. That's what I'd like to know about myself and what I'd like to know about you. How the mess of the world converges and collects in familiar but unique expressions across the surface of me and you.